We have all asked the question, who am I? Who am I really? Let's take a deeper look. Am I my mind? Am I my body? Am I my values, my feelings, my thoughts? Am I my morals? Am I my upbringing? There's a pattern in this. Am I my soul? All valid questions and all part of who we are. Do you ever find yourself being one type of person in one situation and another type of person in another situation? Maybe you're different at work than you are at home. That's all part of who you are, though. But what's your true, authentic self? Parts of who we are change over time. You're not the same person you were when you were a teenager, but there are parts of us as well that stay centered, more like our personality traits. And it's a natural human condition to be curious about who we are and to get clear about it so that we can share who we are authentically with others. We're complex, evolving beings. It can seem easier just to identify with a few things like the roles that we take in life, for example, and the patterns and things that we do, like our hobbies. But if you never really take the time to look deeper, then you don't ever get to know who you truly are and what you truly want deep down inside. When we don't know who we truly are, it makes it a lot harder to make decisions about our lives and our relationships. It also can leave us wondering what it is that we really want in life. One minute we think we want this, next minute we think we want that, and we're not quite sure. We may just think of ourselves as the roles that we play in life. For example, I'm a grandmother, I'm a mother, a friend, I used to be a registered nurse, I'm an artist, I live on the water. These are all parts of who I am. But I wasn't always these things. I was a single teenager. I worked in the wine industry for a while. I was different, but I was still me. As we change and our life changes, the roles that we play change. So, particularly when you retire, you are no longer identifying with, for example, the work role that you had or the parental role when your kids leave home. That changes as well. And this changes parts of who we are. We often look outside of ourselves, though, for other people that are doing these roles, and we subconsciously copy what they're doing and how they're doing it. For example, we take on the borrowed role of what a grandparent should look like, what a retiree does, for example. And other people kind of expect us to take on these roles as well as they're accepted in society. But that's not always who we are. We also take on roles when we're in groups as being part of that group member. For example, if you're part of a bowling club, you take on the role of the person in the bowling club. Um, you might take on the role of another social group that you're in that's different, and the people in that act a little differently. So you subconsciously lean towards those types of things. And all of that's okay. Without realizing it, we can start to dress, act, and think and talk like the other people that are in the groups that we associate with the most. Doing these kinds of things to belong to part of a group is perfectly natural and acceptable. And it's actually part of our survival is to belong or have a feeling of belonging to a group. And this comes from way back when if we didn't belong to the tribe or the group, we got left out. We didn't get fed, we didn't get protected, for example. So it's deep down inside us, this need to belong. So this can affect how we act in certain groups and how we sometimes lose ourselves. Some people find the easiest way to deal with this rather than get to know who they are is to take on a similar voluntary role or a role with someone else. So they may step into the grandparent role more or become a management role in a voluntary organisation, for example. So they're still identifying with a similar role in life and they're still getting their self-worth from being needed in that role. If we've placed most of our identity on the roles that we've played in life and these suddenly end, like you may have been in a management role, for example, and then suddenly you retire. And so now you don't know who you are or your marriage suddenly ends and you've always thought of yourself as being the partner of whoever you were with, or perhaps you identified mainly as being the mother and now all your children have grown and left home and you brought them up so well that they're living independently. You still see them, but you're no longer mainly in that mothering role. These sorts of things, if we haven't figured out who we really are underneath our roles, they can have a profound effect on us and can sometimes send us into a kind of depression state, and we can feel very lost. However, it's not whole. It's not all of who we are. It's just diverting it into the roles that we play. And it's not actually taking the time to get to know yourself on a deeper level. And it can feel like there's something missing, like you're not really being true to the other parts of yourself. Then there is identifying with our innate personality. This is the part that stays centered genuinely. These are the personality traits that we're born with. So you'll notice, even if you have children, that your children are born differently and they have different personality traits. We all do. But these can be affected by the things that happen in our lives. But we sometimes look to identify with our personality traits with an outside source rather than looking deeper. So we'll look to something like a star sign or base it purely on a personality test or type, by things that we were told that we were growing up. You may have been told that you were bossy or that you were um, introverted or sensitive or anything else. And we start to identify with these things. For example, I am an Aquarian and I am introverted, but I am also social. I notice that there's also this capsule wardrobe thing going around at the moment, which allows you to identify which archetype you are as a female. There's the maiden and the queen and the mother, for example, the warrior, I think. And this is another way that we can see ourselves slotted into a certain type and take this on as our identity. But it's still not individual, it's still slotting you into a type. Things can be fun and help us to get clearer about who we are. But they're all buying into the fact that we're all trying to discover who we are and see how we are as an individual and do it the easy way. This can be quite entertaining and enlightening, but it is also very limiting if that's the only thing you're doing. I did this recently myself, the personality tests, and discovered that I am an INFJ. And this helped me to see that a lot of my personality traits that I thought were perhaps a little off or wrong with me were actually just part of my personality. And this for me was enlightening. So these sorts of things can be useful. If you're looking to do one of these tests yourself, there's the Myers-Briggs test as well as a thing called an enneagram. I think that's how you pronounce it. You can look those up and do those tests online. They're a bit of fun and they, as I said, they can be quite enlightening. Also give us a sense of belonging here as well, because we can see that there are others that have similar personality traits that we do, and this can make us feel like we're okay. But our identity is even more than all of our roles and our personality traits. As you're probably aware, is shaped by what happens to you growing up, particularly as a child. Our identity is formed in the very early years of our lives, and a lot of it has to do with what we're told by the people around us in authority, like our parents, grandparents, school teachers, friends. These people tell us what we are and we believe them. And sometimes it can just be a normal personality trait, but if you're in a family or a situation that values something completely different than the trait you have, your personality trait can be implied that it's wrong. What I mean by that, so let's say you're an introvert and you grow up in an extroverted family or group of friends. So they all think that you being an introvert is the wrong thing to be doing. So they might ridicule you, put you down for it, and therefore you, as a child, will try and change this personality trait in yourself because you believe it's wrong. So you're going against your natural personality. And you can carry this right into adulthood and believing that you have to keep trying to prove that you're more extroverted because introverted is wrong. when in fact it's not wrong, it's just different. Examples include, like, you may be the person that's more into, you might be like a book nerd, for example, or into science, and you're in a family that values sport instead. So you're made to feel that you're wrong. Or you could be more intuitive, and the family you're in values more of a scientific viewpoint. There's so many different things. None of them are necessarily wrong traits. They're just different to the environment that you're in. So you will feel like you don't belong. As I mentioned before about belonging being a survival need, for a child, it is especially that way. So the child will try and change who they are to fit into the group and continue to do that into adulthood unless they figure out exactly who they are and that that's okay. They may even become ashamed of this trait in themselves or the traits that they were told were wrong. They may push them down, they try and avoid it. It can affect your self-worth, so many things. And it may have been done quite innocently to you because the people that you were brought up with, for example, or the school system you were in, or friend group, actually believe that what they were telling you was true. And sometimes it was malicious as well, which is, yeah, not nice. Even as adults, we can do things like take jobs, get into relationships, take hobbies to prove that we do belong into this group that's accepted. And all the time we'll be feeling like it's not quite right for a reason. Most people aren't even aware they're doing this because we blame ourselves. And you don't know until your life falls apart and you crash that something's wrong. You're not true to yourself, and you don't know who you are. You're not alone. And this is where doing one of those personality traits can help you to show you the traits that you have that aren't necessarily affected by your upbringing. They're the parts that are in you, and this can be very freeing. Or maybe one day you find your tribe, you find a group of people that actually value these things in you. So if, for example, you had the extroverted family and you were the introvert, you might find a group of people or one or two others that are also introverts and into books and things, and you feel like you really do belong more with this group. Or now going a little deeper, we all have different parts of our personality. So these aren't just traits of our personality, but think of them more as different people inside us. These are referred to in psychology as our internal family system, or family members that belong all as part of us. So there's a core personality, and then there are different parts of us that all make up who we are. Have you ever felt like one part of you wanted to do one thing and another part of you wanted to do another thing? Or you decided to do something and it made perfect sense to you that that's what you were going to do, but you seem to be self-sabotaging yourself. These are the different parts of you. There are no bad parts. All of the parts are working to do something for you. Often we just can't see it. So even the self-sabotaging part is doing something usually to try and protect you in a way that you might not be aware of. So you may have decided, for example, to take that job that fits in with who you think you are. It makes sense, it's going to pay money, it's going to do all these wonderful things for you, and you don't understand why you haven't sent the actual acceptance letter, you haven't made the plans, you're not doing anything about it. Why aren't you doing anything about it? What's wrong with you? You think, am I just lazy? Well, no, there's a part of you there inside that's saying to you, we need to protect you. This is out of our comfort zone. This is going to put more stress on us. It's not what our heart wants, for example. And getting to know all these different parts can help us understand this and help us to feel safe to do the things that we really want to do, or see that perhaps that we don't really want to do them and that we just think we do to belong, or because it's what someone else thinks we want to do. I'll go more into this because it's quite fascinating and involved to go into all the different parts of ourselves. I'll talk about this more in another video. Going a little deeper, then there are our beliefs and values. So you might have all these personality traits and childhood, and you've got your roles that you play. But then there are the beliefs that you hold, whether these are religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs or beliefs about the universe. They affect who you believe you are. So this is another layer on top of that. And then there's another layer. There's the layer of the person you secretly wish you could be. This is a combination of all those other things, but it's the person that we have inside of us that we aspire to be. It's the person we aim to be if we could be, or sometimes it's the person we think we should be. These people that we admire that have these traits are often famous people or people that we don't even know that well, um, people that we follow on YouTube. They're doing things that we wish we could do. Well, apparently that these people we admire them for certain traits that they have, and these traits are actually inside of us. They're usually undeveloped traits, but they're in us, and that's why we admire them. So this can give us a guiding light. This is where I want to go. What do I really like about this person and that person? They may have different things that we like about them, and we can see that this is guiding us to decisions in the future that we want. Even if we think we're not clear about it, there are signs pointing because of these people that we admire. It can actually be quite helpful to write these people down or to just write down some of the traits that they have. Like might see someone that can step up and talk in front of people and you can't, or someone who is running a successful business, someone who's opened an art studio, someone who is traveling all over the world and you don't think that you're quite ready to do that, but you'd love to do it, or you love the way they can do it and be free. You might like or admire someone who doesn't care what other people think. They're all traits that you can list, and this gives you a guidance as to what traits and things you'd like to develop as part of who you are, because you get to choose. We're all conscious beings and we have free will. Yes, there is all that other stuff I've been talking about, but we can choose, and we can choose again and again. We can make a choice to be a certain type of person. Often teenagers go through this a lot, going through different stages. They might go through a grunge stage or a goth stage. They might decide they want to be a hippie for a while. These are all roles and things they might take on, and then decide 2 weeks later to be something completely different. You can do that in adulthood as well as many times as you like. It's not that you don't know who you are, you're just taking on different parts of yourself, because we aren't just one thing. We're a combination of all these things, and as well as probably others we're not even aware of. And that's what makes it so interesting. And getting to know yourself makes you a more interesting person. So if you're not sure who you really are anymore, maybe because your roles have changed or something's happened, or maybe you never really knew, which is me, then it can help to write things down from all of these things or areas I've been talking about. Write them all down in perhaps a circle diagram. So you've got core self in the middle, personality traits out here, the roles that you've played maybe over there, things that you admire in others, etc., all around the circle, so that you can see it as a big picture and see how interesting and multifaceted you really are. It can be very tempting when we don't know who we are to ask other people, who am I? What do you think I am? What am I like? Am I this or that? But the answers you get are simply filters that have come through when the other person's filtering that information through their filters. That doesn't make sense. When they've when people see you through their own filters, I think that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so they're not really telling you who you are. They're just telling you what they see. It's not you. Only you can know you. So have fun with this. Don't get too bogged down with it. Write it out. Have a look, and know that in the end, you get to choose.